Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being the show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Sakamoto Days, Season 1, Episode 20. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, we're picking up in the aftermath of everything. We catch up a little bit with the whole Akira and Sakamoto of it all, where we found out, Akira's last name is Akao, and it turns out that she is Rion, who is the Akao that ran with Nagumo and Sakamoto back in the day, but Rion is her aunt. Which I was trying to think to myself, I was like, the first Rion that ever comes to my mind was like, I didn't realize, maybe I did remember that Rion was a unisex name in Japanese, because the first Rion I can think of is probably Rion from a PlayStation game called Galarians and its PlayStation 2 sequel Galarians Ash. But I swear there's probably been other Rions I've come across in anime and video games that I'm just not thinking of that is a female Rion, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. The Galarians example is the first one that comes to mind. Either way, tangents and all that aside, but I love the little flashback where we saw she aimed at the same spot, literally emptied potentially the clip into that target into the same spot over and over and over and over again. And she's like, oh, basically you can tell how someone drives by the way they hold their gun. And she's like, oh, you two must must hold up traffic when you're merging lanes or something because you're terrible at it. I think it was almost supposed to imply it's not a swift movement. You kind of you take your time and you kind of hold up traffic because of that. You don't keep it smooth and flowing. And I love that Nagumo and Sakamoto were so dismissive. Nagumo's like, who cares? It's not that impressive. Shooting a single, a steel target. And even Sakamoto was like, yeah, you never use that many bullets in real combat. She's like, yo, you guys are the ones who challenge me. Don't be upset with the result. So kind of give you a little inclination about kind of their dynamic. But yeah, what was interesting though is Akira said she's doing all this because she's trying to find her aunt. I guess Rion went missing, which Sakamoto was like, huh. So I wonder, does he not know about that? Because like I said, my initial thought, and I've kept reiterating this over and over again, but I was kind of thinking maybe she got killed by Slur, and that might be why Sakamoto tried to kill Slur, or I'm curious what happened to Rion, and is it something that Sakamoto is aware of, but they've kept hush hush that Rion's family is none the wiser, so it's something Sakamoto knows and he just probably doesn't know whether he'll tell Akira or not? Or is it something that happened after he ended up quitting, in that 5 years after quitting being a hitman? Maybe something happened to Rion in that time frame. Because it's interesting, because if it was something they didn't know, why hasn't Nagumo brought it up, considering that was a trio? They were a trio. So not less even Nagumo's unaware, or like I said, it might be something both Sakamoto and Nagumo know that there's just Rion's family just hasn't been informed about. So I don't know. So that's all we catch up on that front. And on the other side of things, we pick up with the whole Mafuyu and Shin dealing with Toromaru and her having a freak out because of her memorabilia of Sakamoto, that doll or whatever, is messed up. But when Mafuyu was talking all kinds of crap, which I love, Shin kind of smacks him on the head because it's almost hey, don't disrespect Sakamoto. Don't play it off yo, she's a fan of Sakamoto, leave it be. Because it also is right, you're a kid, here you are running your mouth, don't talk, because I'm assuming Toromaru is older than him, but who knows. Either way, when it's all said and done, she goes ballistic because it's yo, I'm an otaku. Do not talk about the thing I love and I'm obsessed with. And she goes full killer mode and she's trying to take them down, which even Mafuyu's yo, why don't we just kill her? And Shin's I'm not here to I'm here to win the game and press forward. I'm not here to kill people. I mean, he's not really going into it, but it's probably the last thing you want to do during these type of exams, considering this is about you going to a school to be a hitman. You probably don't want to put out there, yo, I'm not killing people anymore. So it makes sense. You're just going to be yo, I'm not in this game just to go all out. He's if you really want to, why don't you go back there, Mafuyu, and deal with her yourself? It's I could, but I kind of don't want to. And then we'll have Kaji constantly trying to talk. They even said something to him at one point in time. He's so soft-spoken. He's oh, I suggest, and he's yo, we should be on the lookout. Wait, you should, up ahead is, and it turns out it's a cliff and they fall into the water. Luckily, Kaji's the one that grabs everyone else and puts them on the log. Side note, poor Kaji. He seems like such a sweetheart. Because I'd assumed there was a correlation between the three of them. Kaji ends up being kind of this like sweetheart, because especially with the whole thing when Shin's ultimately fighting Toromaru, which I'll get to in a second, he's up there being like, oh, should I help him? But like, if I do jump down there, like, what should I say? Should I be like, hey, yo, or should I not interfere? Should I jump in and not say anything? He's like, I'll actually not say anything until they say something to me. He's like, instead I'll come over here to Mafuyu and I'll like tap him on the back, you know, to make him feel better because he's feeling a little sick. And then Mafuyu's like, yo, don't touch me. And it's like, oh, this poor guy, he's so contemplative. They're like, yeah, he's very shy around new people. Because even the point I was making before I got distracted, sorry, it's like, they don't know each other, but you'd assume because they showed up together they did. I guess like the boat just happened to pick them up, but I guess it's not like they ever said they were a package deal, but you assume because they came together they did. We'll get to Shinuya, but Torumaru and Kaji, because Kaji was like, oh, I have no nothing about her. I guess they met on a boat, and because they're new to each other, like he definitely didn't talk to her or Shinuya, so of course, like, he doesn't know anything about them. But I just thought that's such a sweet thing to find out about him. He's actually, because I was about to say, it was like, last episode was like, yo, he's very soft-spoken and people talk over him, but it's because he's super shy around new people. I was like, that's actually really adorable and sweet. So there's that. But yeah, Toromaru isn't willing to give up. She follows them onto the log that Kaji put them on when they were in the water. And she basically talks about why she likes Sakamoto so much, because the moment, like, it's like, all right, fine, Shin's like, I'll fight you myself. And he does the neck crick thing that Sakamoto does. And she's like, whoa, how do you know that? She's like, oh my God, are you a massive Sakamoto fan too? Because she's like, that's such a niche thing that, like, isn't just something you cop. Like, you have to be a big Sakamoto fan to do that or know that. And so she talks about why Sakamoto is so important to her. She met him at such a young age, and she's like, the coolness and the caliber in which he handled himself. For her, it's kind of like for her, a girl who like worried about so much other nonsense, it's like, here's a guy in front of me who like is cool and collected and not worried about anything, which is ironic because that's nothing like who he is now, but we'll get to that later. But I think it's actually, there's even her obsession about Sakamoto, even though it is very like obsessive and crazy, but there's actually something sweet that came from it. Because of her obsession with Sakamoto, it actually helped her build herself as a character, which is just kind of like, yeah, like, you know, your fandom or whatever it is that you like go like nerd out about or geek out about or go full otaku for. Sometimes it could be a problem, which yes, there's issues with it, but it could also be something that connects you with people in ways you never know. In her case, it's like, oh, I started listening to music because I wanted to find music that would suit Sakamoto. And because of that, she's like, I started listening to music in the first place. I dyed my hair and I started dressing up more because I wanted to kind of like homage and kind of admire Sakamoto. And like, because of that, now I enjoy dressing up. And I worked on my conversational skills because in case the chance I ever run into Sakamoto, I want to talk to him. And because of that, I have a whole bunch of friends. It's like, no wonder Sakamoto means the world to you, because of him. Like, he's such a fundamental part of you growing as a human being. So it's also like, oh, like your obsession with him actually made you a better person. It like, it rounded you out more. Like he is your sole focus, but it's also like, he's foundational to making you he rounded out the other aspects of your character that would have never been rounded out. So, cause we don't know what situation Sakamoto saved her from all those years ago. She seemed to be in a pretty tight situation, but we don't know what it was. So. Probably prior to Sakamoto, she had nothing, and he kind of gave her everything unintentionally. Like, that's probably the only time they interact is when he saved her, and then she probably never saw him again. And she just like loved and admired him from the shadows. And it's like, yeah, she worships him like a god, you know. So. But yeah, like I said, so even though it's like kind of creepy and stuff like that, and you're kind of like, oh, that enters uncomfortable territory, there's actually something sweet and endearing to her obsessiveness in a way, interestingly enough. But she's going on and on about Sakamoto, specifically about the Sakamoto she knew versus the Sakamoto that Shin's know. And that leads to this interesting thing where Shin's like, no, I get why you would think about like, oh, he's the silent, unfeeling, no emotional, killing, slaying machine. But it's like, no, that's not maybe it was who he was before. And to be told is, maybe that's never been who Sakamoto is. That's just who he looks like from the outside. But like, he kept a lot of people at arm's length. So a lot of who he is now might still be who he he was back then. It's just, because everyone saw him as the invincible hitman, as Shin says, it's like people kept him at arm's length. But he's like, I know who he is. It's like, he's the same guy that will worry about business not doing so well, but never even considers laying off someone like me and Zhao Tang, because laying us off is like less like things he has to worry about, but he still keeps his own because we're part of his family now. And it's like, this is a guy who cares and loves for his family. It's like for Shin, he's like, I understand that admiration, but I've let my admiration for Sakamoto handicap me for too long. I'm not going to let that get in the way of me becoming a better person. I want to become as good as he is. And then for her, it's like, wait, you're telling me I'm wrong? You want to sit there? You're going to tell me I'm wrong? She came down in a bubble, dog. But it's got the same energy of just like, no, you're not going to tell me I'm wrong. I'm the number one fan. You're going to think you're a bigger fan of Sakamoto than me. You don't know anything. And she's like, oh, I'm feeling a certain feeling I've never felt before. The feeling of refusal to share. She's like, oh, thank you, Sakamoto, for letting me feel something else I've never felt before. But it's like, yo, I'm going to put you in your place. And the two of them duke it out. And obviously Shin has to contend with like that complicated weapon. It makes it hard for him to kind of find an opening enough to kind of get in when it's like, well, she can swing it like an axe and then fire it like a gun. So it's like, even with his enhanced abilities, it still can't really get in. So he's really on the evasion and defensive. And now even partway through the fight, he's like, what would Sakamoto do? He's like, no, shut up. Stop thinking like that. This isn't about Sakamoto. You need to stop leaning on what he would do. This is your fight. You find an opportunity. You find your way forward in this fight. And he's reading about, like, he's thinking about and focusing on all the animals here. And then he focuses on a fish. I was like, where's that going to come into play? And basically, he's pushing her further and further into the woods, like pushing and pushing and pushing until he pushes her off a cliff, like near a waterfall. And he's like, right, the fish, like he could hear their thoughts about them kind of getting stuck under the waterfall. So he knew this would be nearby and keep her, knock her out of commission, keep her out of commission for a bit. But then he hears her underneath calling for Sakamoto's name. He goes in down there and it's like she basically almost drowns because she's trying to get her toy Sakamoto that got stuck. And he rescues her. And he's like, yo, I won't save you next time, but I forgot what he said. He said something and he looked cool doing it. And she's seeing like kind of a vision of Sakamoto standing beside him. And it's like, I was like, oh, is Shin going to have a fan? Is Sakamoto not going to be the only one she obsesses over? But she's still a Sakamoto fan first and foremost. But she's like, okay, because you won, here, you can have my toy if you want to as the number one fan. He's like, no, I don't want that. She's like, come on, we could get more people into our community. But then all of a sudden gets attacked by Shinya. And he hits her pretty hard. Because we saw early on in the episode, was it Kashima, Slur, and Gaku were setting something up about, like, they were going to interact with something. And there's a virtual reality thing. And it turns out Shinya is their inside person that they were talking about. So that's why I'm like, is Shinya not a sentient person? Or is he like a brainless, like, did they wipe his mind and make him like a thing that you could control? Like, is he not even human to begin with? Like, is he a machine disguised to be a regular human? But this is their recruitment tactic. They're taking out, I guess, anyone that's weak, and then they're going around and... Because it's interesting, because Gaku immediately got rid of, like, the thing. So rather than letting things kind of progress further into, like, the exam and stuff, like I said, I doubt this is the end of the exam, but regardless of that, like, I guess Gaku hadn't, like Shinya's been on autopilot this entire time. That's why we haven't seen him and why he hasn't talked. Because he's just basically on autopilot. And Gaku finally took over the body and got rid of, like, the tail because he was like, oh, this is going to get in the way. Because he was completely unaware of the rule of the game they were playing. And so the instructors step in because they're like, yo, you can't be doing that. First and foremost, you're disqualified now that you're taking off your tail. And also you've been killing people. That was also another no. So, yeah, we're not going to kill you. But then, like, Gaku's like, oh, I hate teachers. And proceeds to, like, that poor first teacher he grabbed, dragged, and swung around like a weapon. That one guy shot with a sniper shot. He used him as a shield and blocked it. I was like, oh, that poor bastard. We don't know, that one teacher, we don't know if she's dead. The one that got swung around like crazy and then flown into a rock. We saw the splatter on the wall, but, like, that doesn't necessarily mean she's dead because Toromaru isn't dead either. And so, like, the final instructor that's standing is like, all right, you got your future ahead of you, kids. Like, run along and I'll handle this. He thinks, like, it's probably a good chance I'll die. But, hey, I'm an old man. You guys are still young. You got your future ahead of you. But Shin's like, no, if I run away from this, I'll never be in a position to grow stronger. But because of his fight with Toromaru, he's already, like, ran through his limit for his ability for today. But luckily, Mafuyu and Toromaru are they both are interested in Shin and find him interesting, so they're willing to step into the fray as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. The last thing we want is Gaku getting, because they can't see what Gaku's seeing, because he recognizes Shin, but he can't place us where he recognizes him, because obviously it's been like probably like couple days or whatever since they last met, even not if not even longer, because I can't remember how long Sakamoto was in the hospital and him getting out of the hospital to all of this. Like, I don't know how quick that turnaround was, so it's probably been like maybe like a couple days up to a week or whatever. But also Gaku only saw Shin a little bit, like further away with apart during that fight. He's mainly focused on Sakamoto and was it Tamura? Is the old man Tamura? Was that it? So yeah, those were mainly his focus. So I understand. But good thing, like Slur, you know, because I'm trying to think, like, did Kishima? I don't think he's seen Shin before, has he? I don't remember, because he was there at the lab, but I can't remember if he ever interacted with Shin. I don't think he did. So that benefits them. If he catches Sakamoto, that's going to be another thing. But my biggest concern was like, well, Akira might be someone of interest they will seek out. Not only just her ability, but her being like an Akao. And like I said, it seems like something specifically unique to them that they can kind of see like the pattern, like the pathway to basically kill someone. Oh God, there's other series that's done this, but like there is a manga called, is it Tsukuhime? It's based off of a visual novel, and I don't think but the main protagonist in the manga has a ability where he can basically see like the lifelines of a person, and if he cuts them, he can kill that person. I don't know if that's even applicable at all in the game. I only know this from like the manga. I wonder if her family seems to have something like that where they can see like, once again, the pathway, like a butterfly follows a pathway. They follow that pathway to killing someone. So I think it's supposed to be something like you could see like the death line, the route that will take you to killing somebody. Either way, I could see that being something of interest to Slur, especially if her being an Akao and him maybe having some connection or whatever to Rion, and could also potentially have answers that Akira's looking for about Rion. So that might be enough. But she obviously doesn't want to hurt people, but you know, Slur could probably swing her his way. So that's what I'm concerned about. So we'll see how things kind of fare in the long run on that front, but we'll have to wait to see. But there's also the post-credit scene where you have Heisuke and Zhao Tang talking about hoping that everything's going good with Sakamoto and Shin, and you know, Aoi being like concerned, being like, you know, she's like, I hope they're eating well, because she's like, if it's Taro, he's probably like going with instant noodles. I think it was Heisuke that was like, oh, maybe they're eating like snakes and bugs, and then we hard cut to some fish, some snakes, some like greenery that was gotten, and Taro ends up cooking, and it's like, oh, everyone. I think it's supposed to be kind of like probably before stuff popped off for them, like when they were setting up their camp. This is probably like a little bit before, like it during that sequence. It's probably like a little beforehand, because Kill Baby was kind of against it, but then it probably got drawn in, so ended up being a great meal. So yeah, I just thought that was just kind of like a neat little fun thing, kind of, you know, seeing Taro is taking care of everybody in the crew and doing a little bit of everything, you know, and Aoi just, you know, being concerned, like, oh, I hope he's okay. Hope they're eating well. And it's like, yeah, they're handling themselves well. So just thought that was nice. I'm interested to see where the next episode takes us. Obviously, the penultimate episode of the season, I believe it's, once again, only 22 episodes. So only 2 episodes of the season left. So I'm curious to see how this all plays out going forward. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.